And we are back here on the voice of college football, Nebraska spring game edition. We're gonna talk about some of the things that I saw today. It'll just be me today, Zach Reeder from Fifth Quarter College Football. We're gonna talk about some of the things that I saw, some of the good and the bad. We'll also talk about kind of the format and how it kind of threw the game off a little bit, especially the first half to second half playing touch football versus tackle. But I encourage questions. I want to answer as many questions as possible. I think that's probably the best way to go through things. But my initial reaction, I thought that the defense was the group that stood out the most. I mean, they looked really good, especially the starting defense against that starting O. You saw the cornerbacks, Newsome, Braxton Clark, Tommy Hill, a lot of those guys, Tyreek Johnson, very aggressive up there in the secondary. I thought that there was a lot of good things there. You saw some of the linebackers flying around the field, Heinrich. The D-line was very good, especially on the edge. Now, how much of that was actually the defense and how much of it was actually offensive line play? I don't know, but Garrett Nelson was a madman today. We saw Jamari Butler also look really good off the edge as well. Caleb Tanner had some quarterback pressures in there too, but it's kind of, like I said, the first half was kind of tough to judge because the second half had most of the backups in when they were playing the full tackle game. And the first half it was kind of touch, so the quarterback gets a congested pocket and they would usually blow it dead. So it's kind of tough to, get a full judgment on the game. But I thought the defense was really, really good. And I thought they were super aggressive too, on all kinds of routes too. You saw the linebackers out there guarding guys like Isaac Gifford was doing a really good job in that nickel back, taking that JoJo Doman position. Thought he did pretty well doing that. And a few of the other guys that mixed in as well. I thought the offense was inconsistent. I know Frost talked about after the game, they had vanilla play calling. They didn't want to give away too much, especially with bringing in Whipple. You got a lot more passing game stuff from him, a lot more concepts. I don't think they wanted to show much of that to the opponents that they're coming up to face in the fall. I know a lot of people are like, it shouldn't really matter. It's the fall, but you really want to hide those things as much as you can because you work on them in practice. That's why they had 14 practices to do that. So I think it was pretty vanilla play calling. I kind of noticed the two simple route concepts, a lot of runs, options, read options, things like that were pretty simple that you saw from the Huskers last year. But I still thought it was inconsistent. I kind of, talking with Mark earlier this week before the spring game, I wanted to see people on the same page, and I didn't think they were really too far off, but I just thought the offensive line didn't really give the starting offense and even the second team offense a ton of time to throw, so I thought that's kind of what threw things off. But overall, special teams, we all know what Nebraska football has been like in special teams recent years. Punting game was inconsistent, a couple 60-yard punts, a couple 20-yard punts. So definitely going to have to clean that stuff up. 20-yard punts can't happen once we get into the fall. But the kicking game, you miss an extra point, you miss an easy field goal, and they were badly missed too. So still got to figure out, that was Contreras kicking the field goal. Still got to figure out the kicking game a little bit. Do not want those issues again. Special teams will kill you come the fall, especially with how close Nebraska was in a lot of games last year. You know that the special teams costed them several games. So, like I said, inconsistent play. I thought my favorite part of the game was watching that second half. You saw a lot of those in-state guys getting out there, playing really well too. My favorite player, I know that Darius Moore, the Iowa Western transfer, had a big interception late in the game that actually gave the white team, which is the defense, the win in the end. But I loved watching Isaiah Harris, the Millard South product, redshirt freshman back, 5'8", 190. They were talking about him on the broadcast repeatedly. I thought that he showed a ton of burst, and he ran really hard for being a 5'8", 190-pound guy. I thought that was probably my player of the game if I were to give one out, as well as Garrett Nelson, because he just caused issues the entire time. But we'll kind of jump into what I thought about the O-line as well. I think the O-line, if you're a Nebraska fan, it probably wasn't the best sight. Tackles struggled again. You saw guys like Ezra Miller and Hunter Anthony on the second team. I thought Ezra Miller struggled. I think Anthony did pretty well on his end. But Banks was out there at tackle on the first team offense. He really struggled with Garrett Nelson, with Butler, whoever was going up against him. He was struggling big time. So I think that that's something to be concerned about. You didn't have Teddy out there at tackle. He's still injured. So I think that there's a couple things to work on as far as what you can get from the tackle play. I thought the interior got a decent push. But again, you're going to need more consistent offensive line play, especially for a guy like Casey Thompson, who's a better passer, more of that true pro style quarterback that has the athleticism to be both. But you need a clean pocket. He didn't have one today. He went 3 of 4, 31 yards, but I don't think he had a clean pocket in his 4 passes at all. I think he sacked a couple times as well. You got to do better on the offensive line. Garrett Nelson was pretty much using a similar move most of the time, and then as soon as you started to figure out that one, he jumped into another one. And I think he's going to take a big jump this year. This is nothing against Garrett Nelson, but I just think that the offensive line play has to be better in order to give Casey Thompson that time, because I think he looked really good. I thought he was pretty consistent with stepping up in the pocket, going through his reads really fast. I think that's something I noticed from his tape at Texas that made him stand out. Wide receivers, I thought they looked okay. We really are looking forward to Trey Palmer and Omar Manning. I know the tight ends are pretty banged up, so you saw guys like Borkature out there who I thought did pretty well in that game, and same for Rollins. A.J. Rollins did really well, had that big catch from Chuba Purdy. But you need the wide receivers really didn't get very many opportunities, I didn't think. Camonte Grimes had a nice touchdown, had a nice catch in there as well. But they didn't get a ton of opportunities just because the offensive line play was not very good. I thought Logan Smothers looked better. He was taking some shots down the field. But again, he just didn't look 100% comfortable, and some of his throws were rushed and completely off. Going to have to work on that as well. Chuba Purdy was probably he was arguably the best quarterback out there for the Huskers today. Guy's been practicing 1 week. Like, he hasn't been with the team most of the spring because he's been injured, and he did really, really well. He was fast. He was decisive. He threw some really pretty balls out there. One to Rollins. He had one down the middle of the field as well that was broken up on a great play by Isaac Gifford. I think that Purdy's going to be able to kind of push to be that number 2 based on what I saw today. There's a lot of time before you get the season going. But considering he only had 1 week and he jumped out there and did what he did, it's pretty impressive. I was very impressed. And Harburg, I thought, looked really good too. Besides the fumble, he was pretty good. Let's see. Let's look at some of these questions. Yeah, I agree. That was the best play of the day. I thought that was really well scripted. I think it was pretty vanilla play calling for the most part, but I think that they did pretty well on that play call. Snooze Fest, yeah. I think Grant and Yant are going to be a great combo. It was tough to see Yant get so many carries in the first half and just be is like two-hand touch football, and that's not good for a big body guy who wants the contact. He kept getting mad at the end of plays. I get it. I mean, he wanted that contact. He wanted that physical game. That's who he is. He didn't really get that opportunity today. Until the second half, he had a couple good runs there, but I think they'll be fine. Thompson did play. He just played 2 series. He was 3 for 4, 31 yards. Had a run in there as well, but it just went so quick because they were punting at the beginning. I think there were 6 punts in the first 9 possessions or something like that. I'm not sure on the exact numbers. I just know there were 6 early punts, and he had 2 of them, so he didn't even get that many plays out there. I don't think that was the plan. I don't think they really wanted to show much of him to Northwestern coming up for the first game of the season. And they know what they have. They had 14 practices. Everybody's over here getting upset on Twitter that he didn't get enough playing time today. Well, they had 14 practices, and it's the same thing as one of their practices. This time it was on national TV, so there's no need to really do that. It was more of a get some of the young guys in, make sure, get those nerves out of the way, some of those guys playing out there for the first time. So I didn't see the need to play Thompson any more than it was. I mean, of course, we all wanted to see him more, but I still didn't think it was bad. I thought Grant looked outstanding. I mean, that run he had for a touchdown. Again, I know Frost hit on it a little bit, and he said if they were playing tackle, he doesn't know if he gets tripped up or not. But you saw that vision. The hole was pretty much gapped up. It was a zone running scheme. Defensive line did a great job filling those gaps. countering what the offensive line was trying to do. The cutback lane was there, and he did a good job faking out the backside defender and then using that speed. He doesn't have a ton of speed, but he's got good burst, and I think he's going to be an absolute star. I do. He's a one-cut type of back, which are the best backs that make those big-time plays happen. So I think he's going to be a star, and I think that I was impressed by him today. Ramir Johnson, I think, is going to be a big part of the backfield. As much as people love Grant and Yant, I think that Ramir Johnson, I know they're hitting on it on the television broadcast. He's a very good pass protector. He's quick. He's small. He just kind of does things right because he's been in the system for so long. And I think that's something that you need is that consistency. So you'll probably see those three backs rotating a lot in there come the start of the season. And I'm excited to see those three. You ride the hot hand wherever it comes up in the season. If one's doing well, but, third down back probably right now, if I were to guess, you got a power back in the end. You got a third down back and Ramir Johnson for pass catching and pass pro. And then you're going to have Grant in those early downs, getting those handoffs and trying to break those big runs and keeping the chains moving because it's going to be a big part of the team this year. As much as Casey Thompson coming in, all these receivers out there, the running game is going to have to be huge. And I think they're going to add that element even more this year than the past couple of years with the injuries and everything that was going on. Let's see. Caleb Tanner did. Yeah, I thought he looked really good. And I thought at the end of the year last year, he showed a ton of promise as the season wore on. He's been getting stronger, and you can tell he's refining his skills a lot. And I thought he showed some good things today. Again, I don't know how much of it was the offensive tackles just not performing for the Huskers. If anybody remembers who the right tackle was on the Husker first team offensive line, you can go ahead and put it in the chat. I totally forgot who it was. I know the left tackle was Banks, and he was the one getting destroyed by whoever was over there. But I totally forgot who the right tackle was. I can't remember. I was looking at so many different things. I never even saw who it was. But I like that the leadership. They mentioned Hickson trying to take over as the center, and he was displaying some leadership, trying to help this offensive line out because they didn't have a very good day. They really just didn't. Yeah, I mean, we'll see when it comes time. I'm telling you, these guys got so many plays. We got some of the brightest minds in football on this staff, especially offensively. But I'm just thrilled that the defense really looked that good. They lost some huge pieces. I mean, you lose your two safeties who are your two. They're the guys calling everything back there. They're the guys cleaning up all the messes. You lose Cam Taylor-Britt. You lose JoJo Doman. You lose Ben Stilley. And that defense looked really good. Nash, Hutmaker on the front end. I know a lot of people were concerned with, conditioning for him and how many plays can he play. I saw a couple times he got blown off the ball today, but he was really getting a lot of push in there. I thought he looked good on the offensive line. And if those pass rushers, Tanner, Nelson, and Butler, are going to produce like that, you're going to see this defense they took a big jump last year. You're going to even see them take more of a jump because getting a pass rush and a consistent pass rush is something that the Nebraska defense was missing from being what I would consider near an elite defense last year. And if you get that, I think that this team has a ton of possibilities on the defensive end, and then you just need a similar offense to last year, and you're already going to be a better team. And that's where Nelson and Tanner are so huge they're big pieces to the puzzle right now. But I thought the linebackers looked good. I know Reimer wasn't out there because he's injured, but Heinrich did a great job. I mentioned Gifford, a couple other guys playing that nickelback spot, but the corners look good. They were rotating in several corners. Miles Farmer is going to be just fine. He's a hard hitter back there on the end. I didn't really see who the other safety was for the majority of the time. I know that they got several guys back there that were rotating in, and that's what they were doing the whole game. But I'm interested to see who's the guy that kind of runs that true free safety spot as a cover guy come the fall. I've been reading up as much as I can, practice notes, but I think there's going to be several guys that are still up there for that. Tyreek Johnson, yeah. I think Tyreek Johnson right now is probably looking at that third or fourth corner spot. I think that Newsome's going to cement himself in as the first corner, and I think you're going to see a lot of Tommy Hill in there as the second corner, and then I think you're going to see Braxton Clark and Tyreek Johnson kind of battle for that third and fourth cornerback spot. But he had a good pass breakup in there, played really well through the receiver's body, got his hand in there to knock the ball away from, I believe it was Kamani Grimes. So we'll see. I would have liked to see those receivers. I know everybody wanted to see more Omar Manning, Trey Palmer, Alante Brown, but we didn't really see much of them today. I mean, the passes, it was either rushed because a lack of offensive line play, or they were just quicker passes to tight ends. I mean, the tight ends were doing pretty good today. I mentioned Rollins and Borkacher. Let's see. The option run game, it's not really a part of Whipple offense. Like the Whipple offense is more designed to be I don't want to say a West Coast style of offense, because if you watch Pitt last year with Kenny Pickett, they want to run a spread type of look, but it's more passing, and then occasionally they like to run zone running schemes off that. Occasionally they'll go under center and run those as well. There's just a lot of mix in it, but there's not a ton of option. That's where Frost comes in. And I think you're going to get the balance between option and this other true, like pro style is what you could call it, offensive Whipple. And I think when you get those two minds clashing, that's why I said they have some of the best minds out there. You get those two offensive minds going, and you got Mickey Joseph as the receivers coach. I mean, you can't tell me that's not one of the best in the country. Like, I really think it is. Now, am I saying that Nebraska is going to be one of the best in the country? No. But the minds are there. They just got to produce on the field. I think they'll get there. It may take a little bit of time, and I want to see this offensive line develop better. You got to protect the quarterback. You give Casey Thompson time. On I think he had four pass attempts. Two of them I know he had time. He delivered really good balls on time, crisp, clean. That's what I wanted to see. So I think things will look up if that offensive line plays well, but they need Teddy back. They need those tackles to really get better quickly, because without them, you're going to be seeing a lot of what Martinez was doing last year with Casey Thompson. More ability in Casey Thompson as far as a thrower, but Martinez running for his life last year, and everybody was like, he just can't throw the ball. He can't find anybody open. If they don't block, Casey Thompson's not going to do it either. Like, it's going to be a lot of strip sacks. It's going to be a lot of batted balls at the line of scrimmage, which we saw today. It's not going to be good. The tackles have to do better, and I think that's probably the biggest thing I took away from today, and that the special teams still showed too many inconsistencies for me. I don't want to see 20-yard punts and 60-yard punts. Like, your bad punch should be 40, and then you should have those 60 in there. You shouldn't have anything less than that, especially, at a big-time program like Nebraska. And then the kicking game. You miss an extra point by 10 yards, and then you miss a 42-yard field goal by 15, 20 yards. Like, it has to be better. Yeah, they did look spotty, and Teddy probably can't come back quick enough. I'm curious to see what the timeline is for his recovery process. Medical stuff's getting way quicker nowadays, so I could see him being back and ready to go in the fall, but we'll see. I mean, I think he will be. It just depends on if he can get up to speed or not. But yes, Purdy. Purdy looked really good. He looked comfortable. And I mentioned he only had a week to get ready for that game and only had a week of practices here at the University of Nebraska. And he looked outstanding. Like, he looked comfortable when he had time. When he didn't, he was able to pull the ball down. He looked pretty fast. He was making plays with his legs. And I think that, I think Purdy's really got a chance to – I know a lot of people on Twitter, like, he's going to push Casey Thompson. Casey Thompson's going to be the starter. But I think that having a dependable backup like Purdy or Smothers, whoever it is going to be huge. But I thought to see what Purdy did with his legs today really impressed me, because I know he has more ability in the passing game than Logan Smothers. But I did like seeing Logan Smothers take those shots down the field today. He threw a couple really good deep balls. But if Purdy's already a better passer, and if he shows that ability with his legs, I think you're going to see a ton of chance for him to be right there as the number 2, and a chance to jump Smothers on the depth chart if he hasn't already. I mean, I don't think he has already because he hasn't practiced long enough, but you got to think that with how fast he looked and how quick he picked things up with a week of playing after being out most of the spring, it's pretty impressive. Yeah, I mean, Thompson did really well for going through all his reads. Like, I counted, in those 4 passes, I think 3 of them he had less than 3 seconds, and he was still going through his reads. He's more equipped as a passer than Adrian Martinez. I loved Adrian Martinez, but he just is. You can tell he's just way more comfortable in the pocket, even with a little bit of pressure. he still has enough arm strength to maybe throw off his back foot or something to fire a ball into a receiver or a tight end. So, yeah, I think Thompson looked outstanding. And you got to think that if he gets more time, it's just going to even be better and better. And you could see this guy be a top 3 quarterback in the Big Ten. But if he can't get time, it's really going to hurt his ability to, be a top 3 quarterback in the Big Ten, because I think Adrian Martinez had the talent to be a top 3 quarterback as well in the Big Ten, but he never was because he never got the time. So I think the offensive line, it's the key to the ignition. It really is. Ross didn't seem happy at all. End up gaining any confidence watching today? I'm trying to think. Who's on dub? Maybe I'm probably gonna be kicking myself after you tell me, but I don't think Frost was he didn't seem too mad to me. I think he was impressed with the defense. Northwestern. No, I don't think so. I don't think you can take spring games that serious, as far as like if you see a team a little bit out of sorts, you can't be like, oh, we're good now. There's plenty of time before the season. They know what you do in spring games. You have vanilla play calling. You're getting guys in. You're rotating so much that guys aren't getting consistent reps to the point where they're getting comfortable out there. So I don't think you really gain any confidence from watching. I watched Purdue for a little bit in their spring game today. They didn't look good at the end, really at all. It's not like I gained any confidence on beating Purdue just because they didn't look good in their spring game. But no, I really, back to the Frost thing, I didn't think he was mad. I thought he was impressed with the defense, and I don't think he expected that from the defense. As far as offensively, I think he was a little bit disappointed because he wanted to see a little bit more crisp, clean play. And I think what that comes down to, he knew it wasn't going to be as crisp in the first half. I mean, you didn't have there was no tackling, so the running backs were kind of limited in what they could do. You didn't have much of a run game, and the offensive line didn't do well. So I think if anything, he's probably going to be a little bit disappointed in the offensive line. That really seemed like the only thing to me that was disappointing. I mean, unless receivers were running the wrong routes, I didn't think the receivers looked bad. I didn't think the tight ends looked bad. I didn't think the running backs looked bad, or the quarterbacks. I thought the offensive line was the only thing on the offense. But you see how much that blows up. Like, it makes everybody look bad. So I think the offensive line has got to be a lot better. And defensively, again, I loved what I saw from pretty much everybody out there. I saw Maga Clements was out there right next. He was on I believe he was on the second team, but he was mixing in on the first team defense too. I thought he looked really good out there at linebacker as well. So I think that there's a ton of potential, and I think that there's a ton of depth on the defense. I think that's what you saw today, is the depth on the defense. Even as you went to the second half and there's more scoring for the offense, the depth, I think, is there, and I think that's something that's going to make Nebraska a better team as you get down the stretch of the season. I just worry about the offensive line. That's what it comes down to me. Trey Palmer, I mean, maybe 2 catches today. I know I saw one for about 3 yards. He's fast. I mean, he looks really fast out there. He caught an underneath route, turned the corner, still got 3 or 4 yards. I think that he's going to be really good. Casey Thompson mentioned in his interview during the game, who's your favorite wide receiver? And he goes, it's Trey Palmer. I mean, I think he's going to have to step up and be in that Samori Toure status to help this team elevate. And when it comes down to it, I think he can have better stats than Samori Toure if the offensive line can give Casey Thompson that time, because Casey Thompson's a far more capable passer than Adrian Martinez. So I think that's what it comes down to. But again, I was impressed with all the quarterbacks. The offensive line was really the one thing today, and the special teams that kind of got me. Again, punt returners looked comfortable back there. They did well. I thought when you transition to the second half and get into some real football out there, and you get some of the backups in there, it was physical. I loved it. I thought there was a ton of energy throughout that second half. You saw a bunch of the in-state guys making big-time plays. Hahn at receiver. You saw some of the quarterbacks, Masker, Sinek had a really good run, that 16-yard run. That was impressive. He looked quick out of the pocket. But I think seeing some of those guys was the big thing for me. I love seeing those guys play. I think that they push those starters every day in practice, seeing the energy and passion and want to play for Nebraska football. is something that you get from those in-state guys, and that's why Nebraska had to kind of dive back in once they got Frost back as coach, dive back into getting those in-state guys because they mean a lot to the program. Again, Isaiah Harris was the most impressive player of the game for me, as well as Rollins at tight end. He made a really good catch. He had 3 or 4 catches, but Isaiah Harris just showed a ton of burst, and I hope he can bulk up a little bit and keep that speed and that burst, and he can mix into that running back rotation. But again, there's so many running backs in that rotation right now. It's gonna be hard for anybody but those top 3 to get reps right now, unless there's injuries. You saw Marquise Stepp get a run and he got hurt right away. So who knows what you have with him? But some of those young guys, I mean, they were out there balling like they really were, and I loved watching that towards the end of the game. You even saw some of those defensive guys. But the good thing about it is when you watch this kind of football and you see all these people that are obsessed with recruiting and these what star is he, and you get to watch those guys actually play. It's like the people that are hyping up recruiting forget about those guys because they don't play right away. And to see them out there today and making plays, guys like Kamani Grimes making a nice touchdown catch, and a lot of people are mad at Farmer, for not really trying on that touchdown play. Miles Farmer's a headhunter. He's going to be back there at that strong safety position. He doesn't want to blow up his teammate right there. There's no point. He did kind of scare him a bit. That's why he juggled the ball. But yeah, Kamani Grimes looked really good out there. I thought he was running really good routes as well. But keep the questions coming in. We'll try to run through as much as it can. Again, I'll probably go another 5-10 minutes depending on questions. But that's my overall sense on the game. I think the offensive line and special teams are the 2 things that need to get better, and that's what we were saying last year. But I'm super impressed by the defense today with losing some of those big-time guys like they did, and they looked impressive because the pass rushers actually looked like they had pass rushing moves with Tanner, Butler, and Nelson. I thought that they refined their skills a little bit, at least from a spring game perspective. They looked better. The corners, I think even losing Cam Taylor-Britt, they're going to be fine. They got plenty of talent. Tyreek Johnson, Tommy Hill, Quentin Newsom, Braxton Clark. They got a ton of talent and size out there. I think the safeties will be fine because Farmer has a ton of experience on that back end. Whoever's at the other safety spot, we'll see. But the linebackers, I think they'll be fine. Reimer and Heinrich, we know what they did last year. They were 2 of the best, probably the best combo in the Big Ten last year for linebackers. The only problem was they missed a lot of tackles, but they were dependent on making so many tackles. So you're going to have to get help from nickelback positions, guys like Isaac Gifford. You're going to have to get help from that D-line. They're going to have to get in there, slow things up. And you're going to have to get help on those corners. Those corners got to be willing tacklers. Quentin Newsom, Tommy Hill, those guys got to be up helping the edges and being those willing tacklers to help out those linebackers so they don't have to work sideline to sideline. These aren't Levante Davids out here. They aren't. They're a little bit slower, but they're very good at their craft in the middle. Got to get rid of the missed tackles. They had too many missed tackles last year, but I really like where the defense stands. And again, I'm going to like where the offense is going to stand too, because I told you I liked what every position group did today besides the offensive line. See if we can get any more questions. There's 38 people in here. There's got to be some questions coming in. See if I missed any while I was talking. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to see Palmer go deep too. I think everybody does. But there's a ton of speed. I mean, Alante Brown, who knows? Alante Brown might be faster than Palmer. So there's plenty of guys with speed on that team that can run those deep routes. I mean, you'd love to see Omar Manning go deep because it's a true 50-50 ball with how big he is. But I want to see those tight ends get healthy too. Borkature and Rollins, they looked good today. And could they go out and be the 1 and 2 if we had to play Northwestern in 2 weeks? Absolutely. It wouldn't be as good, but they could. But we need to get these tight ends healthy. Brewington, we're not going to see Fadone this year. I think he's going to be out the whole year again with that knee injury. But you got to get the rest of these guys back. Vokalek, those guys are going to be huge. They really are. And Vokalek's such a big target. It's like replacing Austin Allen with a guy that has similar size. So, and those tight ends are such a key part of this offense. But I think you're going to see Nebraska go under center a lot more, and I'm kind of intrigued to see that. I think that they're going to mix that in to try to throw teams off a little bit. You saw it today. Chuba Purdy gets under center, runs a little play action bootleg, roll out pass. I think you're going to see more of that just to get Casey Thompson on the edge. And when you get some of those naked bootlegs out there, you really free up the quarterback to kind of go through the whole field, and he doesn't have to worry about anybody in front of him or any pass rush. And it eliminates, those tackles. If they're not playing well, you roll the pocket, you can get away from that as long as you can get a chip on the right edge and then roll the pocket to the right, which that's why a guy like Ramir Johnson or any of those backs is going to be huge this year. But again, overall, really liked what I saw. Nice interception at the end for the defense to win. That was kind of awesome to see. You saw guys like those in-state guys looked really good out there battling. 53,000, I think is what I saw for the attendance. Absolutely outstanding. Husker football, we got to wait throughout the summer, but it'll be here soon enough. It is going to be super fun to watch. Again, I'll probably go back and watch the spring game a couple more times to see if I missed anything. But overall, not bad. Offensive line's got to refine their skills, and we need the special teams to be consistent. And I really like the trajectory of this team with the coaching staff and with some of this talent they got on the field. So I'm going to jump off. No more questions right now. My team wins. I forgot the score. The scoring system was really weird. But overall, pretty good. Good to see the spring game. Good to see Husker football. Now let's wait a couple months, and we'll get back on the field to kick off the college football season in Ireland versus Northwestern. We'll see y'all later.